Welcome to Talking in Stations. It is July 20th, and I am Matterall here with Rich Richmond. How you doing, Rich?
I'm doing fine.
Good. Also with us in the booth, Shen is here,
Hello.
and Grigorin.
Good evening.
All right, today we have a couple big kills to start, and then we'll get to a Delve War zone update, see what's going on there. The big news today is Fraternity Alliance made an announcement, and it got put all over Reddit. Reddit's translation was just Google Translate, which wasn't very good, actually. So Rich Richmond translated it as well with a little help from Shen. And
Well, I prefer the term localized. It's the better. So, in some ways, it's not the original, but it's been localized in a way that would be far easier to understand for us.
yeah, I think that's the difference between translation and interpretation. Like you have an interpreter, and that's somebody who basically is interpreting one language for another. Translation is actually very direct and sometimes doesn't make any sense. So I think interpretation, and you call it what? Localization?
Localization.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll find out what Fraternity had said. They're a part of Pappy, as you know, and there was some interesting stuff that was there. But first, let's go to some big kills here. Grigorin, what are we looking at here?
Well, the most notable kill today was Frederick Von Hole and his group killed a Victor, which is a Serpentis AT recon ship, which is the reward for the Alliance Tournament 15.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just 3 days after he killed a Tiamat, after he hadn't killed any AT ships in 5 months. Frederick Von Hole is. I don't know if the human plays very much other than that character, but that character only ever hunts AT ships and Black Ops battleships.
He gets around, but, there's 2 kills in a short succession. I
Yes,
think he's done this before. I wonder if he can make the hat trick this week.
yeah, and like a lot of expensive ships, the Z kill value is lower than the actual market value because a lot of the stuff on there is either unable to be traded on the market or traded so rarely on the market that the market can't give an accurate value. So for Alliance tournament ships, Z Killboard just uses a fixed value of 230 billion for any cruiser hull, 120 billion for any frigate hull.
Well, I can
Although,
tell you that TYD is currently selling his Victor for 350 billion, and the last Tiamat I saw would be from Gakko MDC, who was selling it for half a trillion ISK, 500 billion. So that would be I wouldn't want to say most accurate prices because of their
yeah,
fluctuation,
they
but that would be
typically
the
sell.
price.
They typically sell for significantly higher than the Z Killboard value. Although, since they use contracts and not market, it would be impossible to keep up with that.
Well, if we can open up the Tiamat kill mail Matterall, that should also be on the front of Zkill. You can see that there is a Hydra, another Alliance tournament ship by Greasepaint on it. This Tiamat kill is the second ever Alliance tournament ship kill that has another Alliance tournament ship. The first person who has done that would be Casper24 when I believe he killed a Fiend and he had his Maracha on it. But
So
yes,
it's a risky move, right? Because you're using a tournament ship, which is very rare, to fight another tournament ship, and so somebody's not coming out of that alive.
Well, it is a risky move, but if you're going to ambush one, you're going to do it with odds on your side. It seems for both kills the tactic is the same: use of Asteros, clean characters. What's interesting is this Victor. He was with friends. The Victor piloted by Kook Mobile, is a
Yeah.
friend of Rusky's who
Could skip that, but
Uh,
gosh.
we'll skip that, but he's a friend of Rusky's who we previously mentioned when some of his super capitals were baited by Yodunct in one of the previous episodes. He is immensely wealthy, and his friends are also immensely wealthy. So I wonder if they'll replace this anytime soon. TYD is selling one though, 350 billion.
Yeah, if I owned an AT ship, I would avoid any Astero.
Well, this one, the previous one, was baited by a very old character. That would be a Gnosis. That's a Tiamat that was baited by a Gnosis. This Victor was baited by apparently a Hecate on the gate, and then they tackled it. And they had Sinos prepared, more Astero alt accounts prepared, and then they jumped on it.
All right.
And another thing, reducing the Z kill board value relative to the actual value is that this this Victor was carrying 9 officer modules. AT ships typically carry very expensive officer modules, like perfect rolls or near perfect, made out of uh, a Dead Space faction or officer module.
Well, I think I can safely put the value of the Abyssals well into the 10 billion region based on how much a god rolled abyssal web was last seen on musoplasmid trading areas.
Yeah, I've seen. Yes,
But yeah, so
that sounds reasonably accurate.
what's surprising is they killed him right on the gate. The guy killed a Hecate on the gate, and then they killed this guy on the gate.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, abyssal modules do not show up as having any value on Zkill board, be, because they cannot be traded on the market.
All right.
And
Go ahead and finish, and we'll move on to the next one.
and because you're essentially destroying an officer or other expensive module for a chance at getting a better one, they can be very expensive even compared to the source module.
All right. Speaking of Abyssal, there was another kill here.
Yeah, a, a kill board relay notified us recently. One of these automated tools that sh- feeds into a Discord channel when big kills happen. Uh, it, it when that this was recently posted to Zkillboard.
Mm-hmm.
It was not posted at the time, but just recently that a Viator died. It looks like it got suicide ganked, carrying 56 different abyssal modules.
Oof, wow.
And I recognize the alliance as, I believe that's tied to one of the incursion communities, but I don't know for sure. And sandbagger is a slang term in incursion communities for someone who's just in the fleet and not contributing.
Mm.
So it looks like it was the abyssal portions of the fits for multiple battleships. And and incursion battleships tend to be very expensively fit because if you can maximize the damage output, you can make a lot of ISK and make back the amount of ISK you put into the fit pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And because the big communities have figured out the most optimal ways to run it, you don't really have a huge amount of risk in losing these expensive modules. There's still some risk.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
How
reading 29, 13, and 3. That would make it 45. I really hope I didn't botch the maths. Yeah,
yeah, I
45 abyssal low slot abyssal modules. Now, I'm guessing when I PvP, I fit a maximum of 3 before stacking starts crippling me. If they fit usually 3 on these modules, that's 3 divided 45 divided by 3. That's I 15. I actually had to do that. 15 incursion battleships worth of expensive abyssal low slot modules if they fit the 3 on them per ship. I don't know how many they fit, but that is
well, you would use the plates and the mag stabs on the same ship, so they wouldn't really compete for fittings. You wouldn't. You would use both on a Kronos, and they wouldn't compete for stacking penalties.
I see. So, but this is a whole fleet. This is a whole group's worth of
Yeah,
their incursion abyssal modules gone down the drain.
yeah. This is and in a lot of hardcore incursion runners, the ones who who have do it enough that they've invested a huge amount of ISK into expensive modules like this, typically remove their expensive modules from their hulls when they move and move it separately in either a blockade runner or some other small fast ship with a cargo bay. Like, well, so since if you were flying them on your battleship, that would be a prime suicide ganking target. And in the unfortunate situation of a battleship getting suicide ganked, while travel fit, it would be a much smaller loss to make up for than with all of these modules included. So that's why people like to move them separately.
Oh,
I'm looking at some of the I'm looking at some of the better abyssal modules. They're upwards of around 2 billion each per module. So if we average it out and times that by 45, this is probably looking into at least 80, 75, 80 billion worth of abyssal modules into dust.
at least, right? They're all individual, so it depends on their stats, but probably at least. Okay, is this one more kill here this
Yeah,
prospect?
there's a prospect that is died yesterday. That it's another deceptively small kill, which a pandemic horde character uh, it was moving through Cloud Ring and got killed by a tribute while carrying a blueprint collection.
Hmm.
Uh, blue, Blueprints for larger ships, like especially starting with battle cruisers, tend to be fairly expensive at face value, but once they've been researched, which if someone's moving a blueprint collection, that is usually the case, although not for the ones which have been stacked. It's impossible to stack research blueprints. For example, this character's stack of 6 incursus BPOs and stack of 48 incursus BPOs, those were not researched. But blueprints which have been researched cannot be stacked, and those, especially for a larger ship like a battle cruiser or battleship, tend to be considerably more expensive because the time it takes to research it.
Hmm.
Although the weird thing about this is the huge number of unresearched blueprints.
I see here 48 in Cursus blueprint. I would need 48 of those.
Yeah,
Wow.
333 assault damage control blueprints.
Yeah, each of those is an assembly is basically an assembly line. So if you're doing
Yeah.
a ton of work, you want multiples. But 48, those are a lot of assembly lines for ships.
Yeah, and
Interesting.
for blueprint copies, which this includes, there there are a couple of blueprint copies, and those are rendered as worthless by Zkill board because they cannot be traded on the market. But for some of the ones, well, during periods when people are doing a lot of capital production, which I don't think is now, those can be very expensive. And the same applies for Tech 2 blueprint copies, but I'm not sure if that is currently the case. Another interesting item that I saw is in this kill is an RDB, which, if I'm not mistaken, that's an item that's only used in researching T2 BPOs or making copies of T2 BPOs.
All right. Blueprints, get that right. Change this to, this is how we do our work now. We use this cool app. So we can basically build a library every day of news, and that allows us to use it in different ways. So that's the blueprint collection. So 3 big kills today. We'll go and review. You had an AT ship killed. Von Hold was the whale hunter there. You have an industrial ship. They got picked off with a ton of abyssal stuff.
The industrial ship was not today, but it only showed up on our kill board relay today.
Got it. And then a blueprint collection here. Looks like it got taken out with a ton of. I think it's got some weird configurations. I think there's something going on there that I haven't figured out.
It's, if you're moving something like that, I would personally use a jump drive to move a blueprint collection, which Prospect can take a covert bridge, so that is possibly what happened, but I'm not quite sure how it got caught.
All right.
And then there was a ship maintenance array that got destroyed in Immensia, which I believe is now being rented out by Dreadbomb and Deepwater Hooligans.
Mm-hmm.
Which this ship maintenance array contained an Erebus, and the Erebus did not drop.
Well, they don't usually drop, do they?
It's a coin flip.
They can drop, but that did not happen today.
Well, do any of you two know how much of Erebus is right now?
Yeah, this is another deceptively low value on Zkill board because
no. Well, hold on. I'll tell you how much Erebus is right now. Erebus Titans right now are around 120 billion a hull. So if we take this value and knock it off, let's say this real value should be around 150 billion.
Yeah.
140 billion. 140.
Well, to build, they're more than that, but the sale price is less than the build price right now since there's surpluses.
To build is about the same. To build is about the same right now, 150 bill.
Did it go down? I thought it was like 170.
No, it started with 40 billion before the change, went up to 80 billion after the scarcity, and it went up to 150 billion as of right now. That's the building cost, I think.
I think right after scarcity came out, I was under the impression it was like 180, 170 billion to build a Titan.
No, that's way too much. It's about 80 billion after scarcity.
Okay. All right. Well,
and also the news just coming out, another kill mail. So I think we had guests from last week that the J5A Fountain Keepstar. That was the episode we did with the guests from both sides.
Yeah.
And that Keepstar got destroyed as of right now.
Oh.
So triumvirate and no forks given. and other affiliated groups have destroyed Forsaken Empire's Fortizar at that gate of Fountain in J5A.
Oh, you said Keepstar first, so that was.
Or
Wait, did I say Keepstar?
You said Keepstar, yeah.
You said you're killing me here. Oh yeah, they just did that. The envoys for Second Empire.
Yeah.
Put this in the podcast channel.
Yeah,
Oh, it's already there. It
I
just went
was
down
thinking
6 minutes ago.
about expensive stuff, so like Keepstar thing popping in my head.
Yeah. All right, let's have a look at that real quick. Significance of this, real quick.
Well, we had them on last week, and we had Sandra and Stone talk about the Fountain alliances. Please ignore Fappy, and we also had Valesius from Dockworkers talk about their deployment and moving around due to, well, a lack of things to do in LowSec. And here, previously they failed, and previously they changed their strategy. The first time they used Tengus, the second time they used Harbingers. This time they've used Harbingers as well, and their friends in Triumvirate used Tengus. So where they failed before, now they have succeeded. They have brought down Forsaken Empire's forces are.
That's a group belonging to Pappy / Fappy, right?
I don't think
not technically.
the Fappy group is
That's
Pappy.
Fountain Pappy. I thought it was. No? Okay. So
they're Fountain residents, but they're not exactly on the best of terms with the others.
You literally pouring tea.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. Just for our podcasting audience, that was tea. Okay, that wasn't an open mic.
So it seems like this was died uncontested. So from the battle report in that region, from most recent. So it's only like 2 Bifrosts with the 8R Mark V. And yeah, it's a very well fitted Fortizar. It's a lot of T2 fitted, but it was not contested.
Okay. So that's a neat little thing that we are clearing up from a previous show. Okay, let's go to the Delve War Zone. And we were just in Fountain. Let's drop a little bit further down to Delve. What's going on in Delve these days? Hello, nth dimensional people.
Well, it's started to heat back up a bit. Like, there have been a few recent flash forms that I just barely missed because I didn't get back to my keyboard until right at the end.
Apparently, these are not part of any wider counteroffensive, but it's not part of a counteroffensive at all. That's what we've been apparently asked to categorize it as by a member of the Imperium. This is some offensive skirmishing, especially with that Astro Host that was gifted to them by one of the departing original Sinners members, apparently.
Okay. Is that what they were fighting over, that Astro House?
They're trying to reinforce it, and the other side are trying to reinforce the Pappy structures.
Yeah, I think one of the timers for the Astro House was just earlier tonight. I think that was the fleet that I just joined and missed all the Titan bridges today. So I just waited in staging while it happened.
All right.
You should have gated to there yourself.
Anything else going on in Fountain?
You mean Delph?
In Delve, yeah.
Well, over the weekend, the Imperium did reinforce a lot of structures in T5Z, which is the Pappy staging, but did not reinforce the armor timers.
Well, we don't really report on. I think I explained this yesterday that there's you can do a shield timer whenever you want. It's like ringing the doorbell.
Yeah, shield timers. Honestly, feels the only thing that made it noteworthy was the amount of propaganda that they made out of it.
Well, I mean, come on, reporting on propaganda. let's move on. So nothing came of it. They reinforced a bunch of stuff. They didn't do any of the armor timers. Did they do any armor timers?
Well, there was some stuff that formed up yesterday for the timers, and that ended up with looked like the bulk of the fighting was when Pappy went into 3-tac D.
Yeah. All right. Let me read these notes here. The war has not lapsed back into a boring status because things are going on. The Astor House and Knoll attack M9 that sparked the reignition came out of shield reinforcement. Battle escalated to capitals and it was put into armor reinforcement. Fleet still formed. So that did go into armor, but that's being attacked by Pappy, right?
The Astrahus?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Astrahus owned that was formerly Original Sinners is being attacked by Pappy.
Right, because did the Original Sinners hold on to it or did they give it to somebody else?
I believe they transferred it to the Imperium.
So it's an Imperium Fort is our Astra House that's being armor timered now on its way to destruction. Oh, it's now in Hull. So yeah. So the people that did show up to do an armor timer are Pappy, not the Imperium. And so if we want to take a look at this battle zone here, Pappy still have the upper hand, and they're the ones that are able to enforce their will. That's what I take away from this. So last thing is numbers overall starkly slow or starkly show the decline in activity in EVE Online recently, unfortunately. And that's a reality. Numbers are down, as we know. Imperium vulnerability window is now opening in Delve with Pappy formed up. Not sure what that means. Okay, well, as you heard yesterday, the big news coming out of this entire region and diplomatic game that's happening in Delve was that Pappy got together and said, we have an announcement. So we're announcing that we have an announcement. We don't know what they're going to say. They're going to say it on Saturday. But we have a sneak preview from Fraternity, who briefed his Noraus, their leader, briefed his own guys. And I believe he did it in Mandarin. And that was translated and put out onto Reddit. So the Reddit translation is just a Google translation, it looks like, and it's not easy to read or it's not very informative. So Rich Richmond did a little localization of his own or interpreting. So what did you find out? And before you read this, do you want to tell us your thoughts on this?
Well, Shen did some proofreading just before the stream and has it a bit more kinked out. There is a lot of slang terms being used in the original. Yes.
Is that why you localized it?
Yes, I localized it because there's also quite a bit of slang terms. I believe some of the systems, some of the concepts in EVE, you chuck it into Google Translate, it just doesn't work. Branch.
Keep going.
In Chinese is referred to as bloodline, not bloodline as in say lineage, but literally blood and like a straight line, or like a vein or something. So to try and figure that out as branch just by Google Translate, it doesn't work. It requires somebody who understands Chinese EVE a bit and understands localization. And certain other phrases or certain other honorifics and contexts, they're missing because it's translating it from Chinese to English. That being said,
a lot of things is not really slangs, to be honest. That's what we use on a day-to-day basis in a Chinese alliance. And a lot of the names is actually not from players, it's from Serenity. So a lot of the names that we hear from the Serenity server, that's why they're translating that way. Otherwise, it would be easier to interpret it. To translate those things.
I did make use of a Serenity wikia to help me translate certain parts. That I will admit to.
Yeah. So I mean, a lot of them is what we use on a day-to-day basis.
Well, what people
it's not something we use slang.
What people might find interesting about the statement and the message by Noraus is they might find it a bit. Well, they might find it reads a bit different to what they're used to by their own alliance leaders, because this is a Chinese Fraternity is a Chinese dominated alliance, and it is written in Chinese. And culturally, Chinese people are, I would say, me being born in China but raised here in England, I always saw my parents as very pragmatic, and whenever I went to China, the people there were very direct. Sometimes this can be misconstrued as rude or like without filter, but that's just how the culture is there. So do keep that in mind.
Okay. Thank you both for working on this. Let's actually read what the leader of the Fraternity Alliance said about what the message might be this weekend.
All right, I'll read it. I've read in the comments some people like my voice, so I'll do the best I can. Hello everyone, it's Noraus. This Alliance update has 3 parts. The final battle of World War B2, the love-hate relationship between Fraternity and Tranquility Trading Consortium, the reserve banks. The 1DQ constellation with its keep stars and jump bridges has withstood thousands of attacks within the last 90 days. The weekly meetings of the B, slang for Imperium/Goons, fluctuate between 900 to 1300 viewers, which is stable. Mittani does not seem to care about player fatigue. That being said, for the last year, Mittani has had nothing but a group of dead men walking. This is completely different from the mindset of Test and other nullsec alliances. We, the Pappy leadership, think that they would understand player burnout and game mechanics when we launched World War B2. The hubris and tireless resolve of the raging honeycomb is beyond our expectations. We attempted a frontal assault, a two-way attack on 1DQ and ETAC-V, and a massive covert T3 attack behind enemy lines, replacing our strategy of grueling, raging, heavy fighting with frequent smaller attacks, and engaging in verbal battles on Reddit. The Imperium spent 2 months perfecting their defense plan. It has raised their morale and the spirit of their members, and they have begun to surpass Pappy numbers in some time zones. Due to Pappy being unable to use capitals and facing unfair mechanics, players are declining from attrition and their enthusiasm has suffered. We have spoken about potentially setting up a long-term blockade and siege. These strategies are not achieving the desired effect. Imperium is using NPC Null and 1DQ to launch attacks, using covert attacks to disrupt Pappy production, covering Quirius and period bases, and have killed more than 20 raw cores within 2 months. Blockading their production, setting up locust fleets to track their attention, and ganking freight logistics and high-sec, and killing all the stations they may be using on the chain, and cleaning up any Imperium-related group structures in Pochven are also part of the strategy. At the same time, Dreadbomb and XIX Legion of Death and Mangoes in the southeast have fought for Immensity and Impasse, which has diverted coalition forces. We understand there are 2 paths in front of us. Either we are prepared to ensure it stays fun for a long time, and we keep the blockade up, which means coalition forces must keep orderly communications with each other and create some content, or we change our strategy and adopt methods that have never been done before, regardless of the price and cost, to bring down 1DQ. The High Command has decided to announce our decision simultaneously on the 24th. We aim to end this war within 60 days. The Chinese-speaking fraternity will have a meeting at 8 p.m. on the 25th, Beijing time. The above is everything that will be said for this war. So that would be the war statement so far. I believe they have an additional meeting on the 25th due to the differences in Chinese time being a +7 across the entire country.
+8.
Oh, +8. Oh, +8 then. Okay, now on to the rest. In 2018, Fraternity and Test signed an armistice and got Keepstar money from me. They decreed the only Keepstar in HiSec as the Tranquility Trade Tower, or TTT for short. This building earns money every month by taxing large orders for items such as Plex. Horde and Panfam quickly declared war on the TTT. Fraternity also entered HiSec to fight Test, Goons, and their HiSec mercenaries. However, this HiSec Citadel competition was abruptly ended by backroom deals. Fraternity and Panfam were left out of the agreement. Horde, Test, and Goons divided the Tranquility Trade Tower profits between themselves and several HiSec groups, calling themselves the TTC organization. This unreasonable and unfair monopoly has come to an end. We have moved from the drone regions to the Vale of the Silent, mopping up the locals and integrating ourselves in low-sec. Fraternity competes for the Forge market, which is EVE's biggest and fullest market. The opportunity to carve up a share is ripe for the picking. Last week, our alliance has placed down a Keepstar in our Gynon in the Forge. Soon, it will be open to everyone. The Winter Coalition Chamber of Commerce will integrate small suppliers and deliver goods to the Forge market as a whole. The stability of the Tranquility Trade Consortium has been weakened by the World War B2, and the bee and the crocodile want to kill each other. Or I should say the bee and the dino.
The dino.
On this note, so in the Chinese community, we refer to Tess as a crocodile.
That's why my original localized it as dino. At this time, we need internal unity and new valued allies more than ever, who have a special sense and strong ambitions for the EVE industrial market. At the same time, the Pigcoin, that is, the token of the Panda Investment Company, will be offered when the Chamber of Commerce prepares for competition in Ojinan. By mid-August, the market will be fully open. Finally, the reserve banks have been opened and can be used to draw money. I hope everyone understands this is called Great Heist and not Great Harvest. The most important thing is to seize money from others, conquer what isn't yours, take what you desire. Go to Esoteria and Faefabulos and plunder the harvest. Or in other words, Noraus has ordered for his community to go sack Esoteria and bring the bounty home. OASA's reserve bank stands at 1.2 trillion, Peregrine 4's at 300 billion, Branch at 700 billion, and Vale of the Silent at 1.7 trillion. That is 4 regions, and can be open. There are 2 ESS cards for each, high speed and low speed. Branch and Vale of the Silent use the same card, while the drone regions use another. The Alliance will place orders to purchase ESS keys in our home Keepstar of 4TAC HWWF. Our stance towards the Reserve Bank is as follows. Vale of the Silent and the Tribute Reserve Banks belong to you. It belongs to the strong stalwart defenders who have protected Vale and Tribute. Members in those 2 regions are free to collect up the ISK themselves. As for OASA and Branch, unfortunately, they belong to the Alliance. Now this is where the language gets a bit interesting. Uncle is used as an honorific in Chinese, but localized it would be something like, it would be read as something like, Daddy loves his money. These 2 regions have accumulated a lot of money from Fraternity in the past year plus, and the 1.9 gross income can solve a lot of financial problems. An Alliance FC will lead a fleet to the drone regions to take money, depending on what keys we have. It is estimated each person can withdraw about 1 billion in 15 minutes. As long as we get enough keys, we can collect the money relatively quickly. Of course, theft is inevitable, so everyone should mobilize to low security to obtain these keys as soon as possible. Non-Winter Coalition blues found in Winter Coalition space in the ESS's stealing are to be shot and killed on sight. Kill them first, ask questions later, then contact a diplomat, unless if they haven't already. By that token, do not go around looting the ESSs of our blues, our allies. And that concludes Noraus' message to his alliance.
All right, thanks for that reading. I appreciate it. Rich and Shen, do you guys have any thoughts on what you read here? Is there anything to read between the lines?
Yes, there is. I think this, well, as the war rages on, and Fraternity is involved, but I wouldn't say is as heavily involved as some of the other groups. They've made some seriously bold moves. They've moved regions from Oasa to Vale of the Silent. They've integrated themselves into LowSec. They're preparing to seize this opportunity. They're prepared to compete against the Tranquility Trade Consortium.
Yeah, they're trying to be the next big power.
And yes, the location they picked is Ojinan, which is 9 jumps from Cheetah, 8 of which are all high-sec. The final jump into Ojinan, low security, is obviously low security. This is damn close to Cheetah.
Yeah,
I think this would be an interesting place to sell super capitals.
Yeah, especially since I I'm not quite.
Ignoiton, Ascaron.
Yeah, Ignoiton and Basgarin have been destroyed, and well, I'm not quite sure what their relationship with Snuffed Out is these days. Uh, they have been they have backed up Snuffed Out in the past, such as showing up for some of the fights against RC earlier this year. So I would not be surprised if there were under the table arrangements to with directly for this Keepstar, which were Snuffed Out considers a better deal than Ignoiton was for them.
Well, I have to say, this this makes some interesting plays because now they with how Plex mechanics and also injector mechanics work, if they list it cheaper, they could definitely compete against the Tranquility Trade Consortium. And
Oh
because
yeah,
it's in low security space, it has some interesting consequences and benefits for fighting there.
yeah. After the war, I think Fraternity will be the most powerful alliance in the game, regardless of who wins.
I think the pig coin, if we remember that the Tranquility Trade Tower and the Tranquility Trade Consortium allow people to invest in or something, I think that's what the pig coin is meant to represent, a token for people who wish to invest in and assist them.
Well, there's 3 parts to this, right? So you're talking about the middle part of this, which is the competition to the Tranquility Trade Consortium, which is different than the Tranquility Trade Tower. Let's actually put this up. And so this tower, this proposed tower by Fraternity, looks like it's going to be in the Forge, 2 jumps from where Mela was. So there was a Keepstar in Mela. And when that went down, that was like a big hole in the Forge market, which is related to JITA pricing, because you can see the pricing all around that region. So any pricing you see in Mela or Ojenin is the same pricing you'll see in JITA itself.
Well, if you look at the link I've just put in the podcast channel of the Forge, or Jinan, it is right next to BWF, Geminate, but it is also very close to LXQ, one of the Horde's home systems.
Yeah, and BWF is the entrance to Pandemic Horde's rental region of Geminate, but that constellation is currently held by Darkside, which is a Russian group which likes to harass whoever lives in the region.
Yeah.
Hey, and
like
the furthest more south you get of this of Vagina, you start entering places like Metropolis, which, well, every step towards Metropolis and Heimatar goes towards places where Snuff and other low-sec groups
Yeah,
are.
I
yeah,
guess I'll give the AOM perspective on this announcement. It's just my personal opinion, to be honest,
Yeah.
just member.
Okay.
I can't give say anything official. But okay, first of all, we can see that the World B2 is their first priority, but they still have plans on what's going to follow up after the war ends. So, like he said, he's hoping, and the rest of the Happy leadership is hoping the war will end within 60 days. So, what are they going to do after that? So, they have this idea of financial war against the TTT in the Forge. So that's on their mind, but they know that the first thing and the most important thing they need to do is remove goons from Delph. That's what we can see in the announcement. I mean, as for the ESS part, that's just standard. I think nothing too surprising, to be honest. As an alliance, you encourage your members to raid other people's ESS and trying to protect your own ESS. But as of right now, they're blue to most of the universe. So the only people I think that's within Papillon that can raid is us. So we'll be under pressure, but it's just gonna be like any other day with Fraternity. We were not blue with Fraternity during any part of this war, so it'll be the same as normal.
Mm.
But one thing that I was surprised of is they missed out on the snuff part. Because they are technically right now in war with snuff. There have been constantly fightings, and so I mean, snuff as being a biggest threat to them in their region, both in low-sec and in null-sec. So we can see during non-AUTZ or CNTZ, their structures, their structure should be timer should be set to the correct time zone. But let's say there are people and their like other group, because Fraternity right now grow too big to become more than only one time zone. So their other time zone of Fraternity will be very vulnerable against snuff with the amount of force that they have. And let's say spying, we have seen two Titans have lost. One of them is a faction Titan. So there are a lot of things that Fraternity needs to take care of before they can move on to us, which is one thing that at least I'm happy about. So
I'm not sure.
Nothing surprising. Yeah.
I'm not sure how serious their conflict with Snuffed Out is. It could be an actual war. It could be a conflict deployment, a content deployment.
Well, all right.
Well,
let me get in on this, Rich. The Fraternity Alliance announcement that came out from Noraus and was translated, as you heard, by Rich Richmond as he read it. I think let's go over it again. Three things. There's three parts to this. One is the final battle of World War B2, as he calls it. The second one is the love-hate relationship between Fraternity and the Tranquility Trade Consortium. And then the last part was the reserve banks, the ESS, great heist banks. And let me just, for people who wanted to get some clarity, the final battle of World War B2, he described the situation as it was, and the description and the basically the point that they're at now. They have to make a decision to do one or the other, attack or I think one of the options is to actually do nothing, right? To leave it as it is.
Yeah, he said to keep it fun, which I presume means keep it at a homeostasis rate where nobody's burning out and nothing big is happening, presumably, because it's kept stable, kept fun.
Right. Okay. So the second thing is, we'll come back to all these. The second thing is the love-hate relationship between Fraternity and Tranquility Trade Consortium. I did not know they were left out of that. I figured they were bought in at a certain point because Billy always expressed the desire to pacify any dangers by including them in an agreement. But the consortium is different than the trade tower, so maybe there's a difference there in who's getting cut into the profits and who's not. And then and so in reaction to that, you're going to have Fraternities basically opening up their own shop in low-sec Forge, which does allow for super capitals to be sold there. That's a big deal. And that's something that Tranquility Trade Tower cannot do. And remember, everything in Ignoitin was destroyed by Snuff. So the consortium lost a whole system out there that was low-sec. So they have no low-sec presence. The Tranquility Trade Tower doesn't. Or the Tranquility Trade Consortium doesn't.
Might be of interest. A few months ago, he launched a Freeport Keepstar. Actually, no, it wasn't a Keepstar. Sorry, a Freeport Sotio and Tatara in MTAC-O for people to use.
He did, and I thought they did put down a Keepstar in low-sec up there, not in OB, but let me actually see where that was. Am I wrong about that? Wasn't there something put in? I may be over-speaking it. I think there was something. I thought he put something in. Checking. No. I'm going to have to go back. I thought that they had actually put a Keepstar down in low-sec near MTAC-O. Like just right outside of it. But outside of MTAC-O is TACI and OB. I don't know. I'll look into it. So there is a presence of low-sec from Fraternity. Now they're going to put down a Keepstar near Mela, basically, and take over that whole area that has been missing some kind of a trading tower. And now there will be one, and it will be in the Forge. So you'll have all the same pricing. You'll be able to see the pricing from JITA, etc. Interesting move. Has to be done with the permission, I think, of Horde, because it's right outside of Horde space, and you don't want to be vulnerable to Horde if they don't want you there. So that, and then finally, the third part of this, the reserve banks, is basically they're going to attack AOM. Sorry, Shen. Looks like they're coming for you. And they're going to...
It's every day.
Every day,
We're used to it right now.
He makes it very clear. This isn't about harvesting our own ESS banks. We're going to do that anyway. This is about conquering other people's. But don't conquer anybody's blue that's blue, which is everybody else, I believe. Not going to go after Horde stuff, not going to go after NCPL, PanFam, or any of that stuff. They might go collect Owasso, which was their stuff. And the only enemy they really have on the board right now is Army of Mango in Esoteria.
And Wrecking Crew. That's another option. Providence, Catch.
Good call.
Part of Tenerife as well.
Good call. You're right about that. Yeah.
And then all the those rings.
Yeah, it's interesting that he emphasizes it's a heist, not a harvest.
Yeah.
But what I'm more curious about is how he divided it up. We see Oasa, Peregrine Falls, Branch, Veil of Silent. Combined, they make about 3.9 trillion, and he's divided it pretty much in half. Half of it, he says, if you are one of the defenders living there, go collect it. It's yours. And zoom in on my camera, Matterall.
All right.
It's Friesk.
Okay.
And all right. And as for the rest of his orders, yeah, he's pretty much said, go sack Esoteria, bring home the bounty, bring home the booty, bring home the loot.
Yeah. So those are the three parts to this fraternity message that went out to his members. This is not the announcement we were looking for. It's not a leaked announcement or anything that might give away what's going on Saturday, but it certainly paints a picture, doesn't it? That Pappy is going to rev up the war and try to take 1DQ. Or, I just don't see an or. They're not going to announce that they have an announcement if the announcement is going to say more of the same. So it's got to be a change. And they're not going to say, we're leaving. Thanks, guys, for all the fish. I just don't see any other message that except that we're going to now siege the castle, basically. Which is,
there's no.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's not really any other options of backing off for any Pappy alliances right now. So if you think about it, it takes the rest of the universe to come together to fight one coalition. So therefore, if these alliances break up into their individual coalition, Imperium can easily take out them one by one. So therefore, it's basically suicide if they go back. That's at least
right.
My perspective. There's no backing off at this point.
Yeah, Galvin said something similar in
the equilibrium talk.
Yeah, he said he was talking more about it, how there isn't really any other thing to do besides either sit around doing nothing or go attack someone who is much smaller than you.
I love Araya's answer to this. He said the big announcement is going to be they're going to be in the Alliance tournament. That's awesome. All right. Well, anyway, we're still waiting on Saturday where we hope to hear something interesting. But it's starting to shape up to some kind of a big fight. And from what we've seen, it looks like Delve is kind of waking up anyway. We did look at PCU numbers recently, and they seem to have stabilized quite a bit. I think we've hit that floor as far as the straight up PCU goes. But let's take a look at some other statistics real quick before we go. Talking Stations has this new thing, thanks to a friend of ours, that allows us to see some stats, not just the PCU, but other stats as well. Let's see if I can put this for today. Wow, when it works, I'll hold it over here until we can see some stuff.
Well, as for the Alliance tournament, we do know that Fraternity has had quite a few small gangers. They've also banded up and split off and formed a group of their own. So Might they
knows?
return for the Alliance tournament?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, look at this. The PCU seems to be starting a little recovery here. It's, you know, it went from 21,000 to 23. It's the right trend, but awfully small. It looks like ship kills have mostly stabilized. This is over the last 2 weeks, basically. And everything else seems stable, and you see jumps are improving, and NPC kills are pretty much the same. So we've hit a floor, if nothing else, but it looks like there's a few signs of recovery for statistics, and you can check that out on EVE Offline as well. The PCU seems to have hit a floor. So all that while the war looks like it's about to heat up.
I mean, if anything, the PCU is going to go up after the announcement, I feel like. As we said, there's no other option other than just keep fighting harder. So there'll be a lot more people to commit to the front line instead of back home. So this is my estimate. At least we're going to see potentially lower NPC kills and higher pod kills and ship kills, because this is an OSEC war and people get potted. So yeah, and then we can see like a resurge in PCU to some degree.
To some degree, we don't know what it'll be. But it won't be going down as it was before. So I think we've hit the floor. I think that's safe to say. Can't say much more than that. But I think our prediction is that we'll start to see players come back. Not only because summer will start to get a little bit later, but also as activity heats up in the game, we'll hopefully see some people come back for that sort of thing. All right. Any last thoughts, you guys, before we go?
Well, as the Ironborn say, I take what is mine. I'm going to pay the iron price with these ESS keys. After all, it's free ISK.
Is that what the Ironborn say? All right, Shen, Gregorian, you guys have anything else?
Maybe you can put the translated version, was a localized version of Frat's announcement in our description on YouTube. I think a lot of people want that, so it'll be easier for people to read.
Yes, we're
going to go over it one more time, and we'll do that.
Yeah, we're going to proof it one more time. We'll put it together in a document. We'll put it with show notes on YouTube with this video, so you'll be able to see it there. And that'll go all with the podcast as well. And we'll put it on Talking in Stations too. We'll just release it there. Okay? All right. Well, thank you very much, Rich, for translating that and for being on today. Shen, Gregorian, thank you guys for showing up today. We will send you over to, is it Tuesday? Trash Talk Tuesday?
It is Tuesday. They
are
heating up.
Yeah, that is Redline Show, and they'll probably have some more stuff. Good to see you guys. We will see you next time on Talking in Stations.